Good afternoon and good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's NCUA webinar on resources for low-income, minority depository institutions, and small credit unions. I am Ron Good, an instructional systems specialist in the Office of Credit Union Resources and Expansion at NCUA, and I will be your moderator for today's program. Before we begin, I have a few, sorry about that. Let me go back. Okay, before we begin, I have a few administrative announcements. If you're having any problems hearing my voice, please adjust the volume on your computer. And if you're still having problems, use your Ask a Question feature on the bottom of your console and send a message to our support team, and we'll help you right away. Please make sure that you allow pop-ups from this site. In approximately 2 weeks, the webinar will be closed captioned for an on-demand viewing in the NCUA Learning Management System. You will be able to review the webinar and download a PDF version of the presenter's PowerPoint presentations. You can also download the PowerPoint presentation today by clicking on the registration link. That's the link you use to register for this webinar, and re-enter your contact information again. You will get a message saying you have already registered for this event. Just select OK, and you will be taken to a landing page where you can download the slides. Now, I would like to read a disclaimer. The materials presented in this webinar are intended as an informative and educational summary of general information on available resources for credit unions. The NCUA has taken reasonable measures to ensure the quality of the data and the information produced by the NCUA that is available in this presentation. The NCUA, however, makes no warranty, expressed or implied, nor assumes any legal liability or responsibility for the accuracy, correctness, or completeness of any information that is available through this presentation, nor represents that its use would not infringe upon privately owned rights. The slides are intended for educational and discussion purposes and do not constitute legal advice nor replace independent professional judgment. Reference to any specific commercial product, process, or service by trade name, trademark, manufacturer, or otherwise does not constitute an endorsement, recommendation, or favoring by the U.S. government or NCUA. So this is our agenda for today. We're going to begin with introductory remarks from Christy Kubista-Hovis, who is the Resources Division Director. She will introduce our speakers. Then we're going to have a presentation on grants and loans, followed by one on Small Credit Union Support Program, and then I am going to walk you through the NCUA Learning Management System. We will have time for Q&A, and then we will close out the webinar. So it is, sorry about that. It is my pleasure, give me a second. Don't know what happened. Okay, so we have a polling question for you. Please take a few moments to answer this polling question for us and let us know the asset size of your credit union. A, $0 to $50 million, B, $51 to $250 million, $250 million to $500 million, $501 million to $1 billion, over $1 billion, or let us know if you are not a credit union. So I'm going to give you a few moments to give us your response. And it looks like most of you are in the are under $250 million so far. That looks like the majority. A and B are the highest selection. So this is good. We also have some larger credit unions, which is great. This information will help any size credit union. So thank you. I'd like to close out the poll, if you don't mind, please. Thank you. So now it is my pleasure to welcome to our program Christy Kubista-Hovis, Resources Division Director in the Office of Credit Union Resources and Expansion. Christy, welcome to our webinar.
Thank you, Ron. I'll keep this brief. I just want to say thank you all for attending this really important webinar. We really wanted to try to give you a multi-dimensional webinar that showed a bunch of different opportunities that we have for credit unions here at NCUA outside of the examination processes. I personally am responsible for the team that does all the training and the development, as well as all the grants and loan funding that we have available. But today we're going to have three different speakers. One, Mr. Ron Good will be speaking at the end of the presentation, but we'll be starting off today with Mr. Joshua Krantz, who is currently the grant administrator for the Community Development Revolving Loan Fund within NCUA's Office of Credit Union Resources and Expansion. He reports directly to me. Josh joined NCUA in December 2018 and has previously worked on federal grant programs at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development and the Community Development and Financial Institutions Fund. Through the CDRLF, Josh and the grants and loans team provide low income and minority credit unions with technical grants and loans to build their capacity and reach underserved communities. The second presenter today will be John Berry, who joined the NCUA in September 2010 as an examiner, a position he held for 6 years. He then spent the next 6 years as consumer access and analyst in NCUA's Office of Credit Union Resource and Expansion, right down the hall from Josh and myself. John is currently a policy advisor in NCUA's Office of Examination and Insurance. And John grew up and continues to live in Michigan with his family. John graduated from the University of Michigan with a degree in statistics and a master's in accounting from the University of Michigan, Dearborn. Now I'll turn the program over to Josh.
Hi, everyone. Today we're going to talk about grants and loans that are available through the NCUA's Community Development Revolving Loan Fund program. Next slide. So the purpose of the Community Development Revolving Loan Fund, or the CDRLF, is to assist low-income credit unions in providing financial services to their members and to reach communities that are currently underserved. We offer 3 different types of funding through the CDRLF: annual technical assistance grants, low interest loans, and grants for newly chartered credit unions and to respond to emergencies that come up. The first part of our presentation will focus on the technical assistance grants, specifically the ones that are available in 2023. Before we get into what the grants are, I just wanted to point out a few key dates. So right now, if you are interested in applying for a grant from the NCUA, you need to make sure that you have an active registration in the System for Award Management, which is SAM. You would log into sam.gov, create an account, and provide SAM with information that will allow you to qualify to participate in not just our program, but funding programs across the federal government. The next big date, I do want to point out that the SAM registration, it may take a few weeks to finalize. So again, right now, if you're not already registered in SAM, please go ahead and do that as soon as possible. The grant round will the grant round will open up on May 1st. That's Monday, very soon. The application will be available online only through the NCUA's grant management system, which you can find a link to on our website. The grant round will be open for 2 months, closing on June 30th. And during that time, you can submit questions about the grant program, any questions you have about eligibility or potential projects, to the email shown on the screen. The last day that we'll be accepting questions is June 23rd. And we do get this question quite a bit. It doesn't matter what time you submit your application. So it's not first come, first serve. So please take your time. Make sure that the application that you're submitting is a strong one. Next slide. So I want to highlight what's new this year. For those of you who are familiar with the CDRLF program, you'll see that MDIs, minority depository institutions that are not low income designated, are now eligible to apply. In previous years, only low-income designated credit unions could apply. So we've opened that up to non-low-income MDIs. We're also now allowing credit unions to claim costs that were incurred prior to the award announcement to be eligible for payment. These costs can be dated back to the date that the notice of the funding opportunity was announced for this year's grant round, which was March 30th. I do want to point out that if any project costs are incurred before the award announcement is made, that they are incurred at the credit union's risk. So the NCUA will not be reimbursing costs that are incurred by credit unions that do not receive awards. The next thing I wanted to point, oh, sorry, we got a couple more things. The next thing I wanted to point out is that any credit union receiving an award greater than $15,000 can request partial reimbursements throughout the performance period, no more than quarterly. Previously, we only allowed for reimbursements to be submitted at the end of the project. This will allow credit unions to request payment of funds throughout their project as they progress. And then finally, credit unions with less than $25 million in assets can request advance payment of award funds up to 25% of the award at any given time. Credit unions will then have 90 days to expend those funds and report on the progress of their project. Next slide, please. In order to be eligible for a CDRLF grant, you need to be, as I mentioned before, either a low-income designated credit union or a minority depository credit union. And again, you do need to be registered. You do need to have an active registration in SAM. I do want to point out that any questions you may have about SAM or your registration should be directed to the Federal Service Desk at fsd.gov. SAM is not maintained by the NCUA. It is a separate government agency that runs it, and so we really are a limited help with any problems that you may be having. This is a brief overview of the initiatives that we will be offering this year. You see that grants range from $5,000 to $50,000, depending on the planned activities. You can apply for a training grant, which allows you to help your credit union build continuity and staff development, digital services and cybersecurity, which will allow you to implement new online banking features, strengthen your cybersecurity, and sorry, the motion lights got me now. Or perhaps purchase equipment that will allow you to serve credit unions remotely. A new initiative we're offering this year is the Consumer Financial Protection Initiative. This is to help credit unions with comply with consumer financial protection laws and regulations. These will cover costs such as training staff on these topics and also conducting internal audits to ensure that the credit union is operating in compliance with these laws and regulations. Another new initiative this year is the MDI Capacity Building Initiative. This is specifically reserved for MDI credit unions, and this is the goal of this initiative is to help them build capacity to better serve minority populations. And finally, the Underserved Outreach Grant is an external facing grant. Essentially, is where we want you to go out and provide new services, outreach, financial education to members of the underserved community. We are also offering a new pilot grant this year. The objective of this pilot is to encourage innovative solutions to solve problems that credit unions and underserved communities are facing, to help small credit unions team together to leverage their resources to achieve their growth, and also primarily to develop new methods to address challenges that are facing the credit union industry and underserved populations that can then be replicated throughout the country. Next slide. These pilot grants will take place over 3 12-month performance periods. The funds will be obligated annually. So in the 2023, you will only receive enough funding to cover your first year of performance. Awardees will be eligible to receive subsequent obligations in 2024 if there is funding available by Congress, as this is a congressionally appropriated program, and also upon demonstration of the successful completion of the first phase of the project. So these two pilot initiatives, you can go to the next slide, sorry. These two pilot initiatives are being offered, as I said, in 3-year performance periods. The first being the Impact Through Innovation Initiative. And here we want credit unions to focus on one of 4 focus areas, such as banking deserts, affordable housing, reaching credit invisibles, and partnering with fintechs. Credit unions will be eligible to up to $300,000 for the 3-year project, and you will receive up to $100,000 for the first year. The second pilot is the Small Credit Union Partnership. This is where a group of credit unions will pool resources together to achieve growth for their credit unions. They'll be working together towards a common goal. This is, again, a 3-year award for $150,000 or $50,000 annually. Other resources that we offer through the CDRLF are low interest loans. These loans have no limit, minimal or maximal, but they typically range between $250,000 and $500,000. They are in the form of a 5-year balloon payment loan with semi-annual interest-only payments. The current interest rate is 1.5%. And then the final product that we offer is our Urgent Need Grant. The maximum award amount is $7,500, and these funds are to respond to natural disasters such as hurricanes, floods, any damage done to the credit union, and also to provide resources to the credit unions within the first 5 years of their operations. While the 2023 grant round is only open from May 1st to June 30th of this year, these two initiatives, the loans and the urgent need grants, are open year-round and available at any time for low-income designated credit unions. I wanted to provide some quick tips on submitting your application. First, it's really helpful to our reviewers if you tell a clear story. No matter what your project is, they all have a similar, I would say, like a story beat, right? So you want to identify a need. Either it's the need of the credit union or the need of the members that you're serving. You want to explain how that project will address that need. How will the project be implemented? What are you using the money for? How will you, reach out? Will you partner with community groups? Will you have a new system installed? Tell us that story, and then finally describe the outcome of the project. And you want to provide quantitative and qualitative data. What your planned deliverables are, how this will benefit the credit union and the underserved community. Again, you're going to want to support that story with performance metrics, statistics, whatever you think can kind of like flesh out that story. And then finally, we actually did a really great webinar in the fall that goes into much more detail on how to submit a successful CDRLF grant. We go through the process in Cyber Grants as a demonstration. Of course, it's last year's application, but it will give you a very clear idea of what we're looking for and what a successful application will look like. And I believe that is it. Thank you so much, and I look forward to reading all of your applications.
Great. Thank you so very much, Josh. So now it is my pleasure to turn the webinar over to John Berry, who's going to talk about the Small Credit Union and MDI Support Program. John, welcome to our program.
Thanks, Ron. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Berry. I'm a policy officer in NCUA's Office of Examination and Insurance. Over the next 7 slides, I'll provide you some background information about NCUA's Small Credit Union and MDI Support Program. Next slide, please. The support program was initially implemented in 2022. To be eligible for the program, a credit union has to be either an MDI of any asset size or has to have less than 100 million in total assets. And the purpose of the program is to support and preserve small credit unions and MDIs and to promote greater financial inclusion by expanding access to affordable, federally insured financial services. Next slide, please. Credit union can be identified for participation in the program in multiple ways. Credit union can reach out to their examiner, and we encourage credit unions to reach out to their examiner or their region if they see a need, and the needs that the different support that we provide. It's going to be on the next slide. Reach out to your examiner as soon as you can to request support through the program. Examiners can also reach out to credit unions if they identify credit unions they believe need support and ask them if they'd like to participate in the program. And then also regions may identify credit unions who they believe might need support, and they would reach out to the credit union to ask if they'd like to participate. Regardless of how a credit union is identified, the regions will make the final determination on credit unions who receive support through the program and the budgeted hours that they'll receive. Next slide, please. This slide goes over the types of support that are available through the program. When an examiner helps a credit union, they're going to categorize the support they provide into one of these 20 categories. Credit unions may request to receive support in multiple areas as well if there's multiple areas that they need assistance in. Credit unions may request, as shown on the slide, credit unions can request assistance in addressing exam concerns, managing earnings, establishing a succession plan, helping with their marketing program. And I'd also like to highlight a few of the support categories that relate to subjects discussed during the webinar, such as assistance with training and obtaining training materials. Examiners will commonly start with helping credit unions access the learning management system and showing credit unions what available training we already have with the NCUA. And there's also available support for helping credit unions complete and submit a grant application. So we encourage credit unions to reach out quickly if they need help with grants. This grant cycle is happening very soon, so the support might not be available if not already requested for this cycle, but please reach out to your examiner if you believe that you'll want to participate and get assistance with grant applications in the future. Exam staff will work with CURE to assist credit unions with grant applications and working with field membership expansion applications. But please, if you need assistance in these areas, reach out to your region or your examiner. Please do not reach out to CURE. Next slide, please. So when determining how the support program's budget hours will be allocated, NCUA will always prioritize areas of emphasis or increased risk. Current examples of this would be succession planning, net worth restoration plans, mentoring between credit unions, and field of membership expansion applications. Next slide, please. In 2023, additional focuses of the program will be greater awareness of the unique needs of small credit unions and MDIs and their role in serving underserved communities, expanded opportunities for credit unions to receive support through NCUA grants, training, and other initiatives, and furthering partnerships with organizations and industry mentors that can help support small credit unions and MDIs. Next slide, please. I'm going to go over a couple of frequently asked questions that we've received. First being, how do they receive assistance through the program? As discussed previously, please reach out to your examiner or the regional office for assistance, and discussions can be had about the type of assistance and support and budgeted hours that are available. Next slide, please. The second question is, who completes the support program contacts and when are they completed? In most cases, support program contacts are completed with your district examiner. Assistance can be provided as a standalone contact or in conjunction with your exam, depending on the timing. And while they can be completed in conjunction with your exam, the support program hours and the budget are completely separate from the exam program and don't impact your exam results. So I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak about the support program during this webinar. I'm now going to turn it back to Ron.
Great. Thank you so much, John. So I want to thank Josh and John both for sharing so much valuable information that I'm sure you will find useful. We will provide contact information for both of them at the end of the webinar, so you'll know how to contact us or how to contact John, how to contact us in CURE or John. So you might want to get ready to jot those down when the slide pops up, or perhaps take a screenshot. So now what I'd like to do is talk about NCUA's learning management system. So there is no charge for an account setup or access on the learning management system or LMS. It is only available to credit unions, however, and it can be for credit union volunteers or employees, either one. To get to the Learning Management System landing page, you need to go to ncua.gov, select Support Services, then select Credit Union Resources and Expansion, then Learning. When you click on Learning, you'll be taken to a page. You scroll down and you'll see the LMS link. After you set up an account, it takes approximately 12 hours for the system to give you access to all the training and materials. It has to reset, so be patient. Sometimes it takes less than that. So you can check back in a few hours later if you want, but what we find is it's about definitely under 12 hours. So this is the Credit Union Resources and Expansion, or CURE, page that you get to after you select ncua.gov and then go to Support Services. And you see the red arrow, that's where you click See More so that you can go to the page that has the LMS link. And like I said, you're gonna have to scroll down a little bit depending on how big your screen is to find that link, but it's very easily identifiable. So once you get to the landing page, this is what you'll see. You will see Create Account. Of course, if you already have an account, you just click Sign In. And you also see a link for View Courses. You can view courses without having an account. If you just want to click on that link, and I'm going to talk later about how to search and that kind of thing and what it looks like. But if you just want to just browse and see what's available there, you can go directly there. I encourage you to just go ahead and set up an account, because if you see something you like and you want to access it, you're going to have to set up the account anyway. So once you decide to set up an account, you'll see this disclaimer. It will ask you for your first and last name and email address, and then you have to, of course, accept the disclaimer. Then you're going to get to this page, and a lot of people I've gotten a lot of questions about this particular part of the setup. So division, so you see that red arrow, you'll see this square box. I don't know sure how clear it is on your screen, but it looks like a square box with an arrow pointing upwards to the left, to the right. So you click on that first. That's the first thing you have to click is division. And what you want is CURE. And it's the only choice actually after you click that little arrow thing. So you just click on CURE. The next thing it's going to ask is your credit union information. So you just type your credit union name in the title. Once you find your credit union and you click on it, it will also automatically add your charter number, so you don't have to worry about doing that. And then next is your position. And like I said, it's available to all credit union employees and volunteers, so you just pick which one is appropriate. And by the way, every credit union can have an account at no charge for as many credit union employees and volunteers that they have. You don't have to have one account for each, one account for your whole credit union. Each person can have their own. And we recommend that actually, because you want to be able, each person needs to be able to track their own progress, what courses they've taken, etc. So then you need to create a username and password. So don't forget to do that. And then there's some rules. It has to be between 8 and 15 characters, and has to include an uppercase and a lowercase and a number and an alphabet and a special character. Typical things that I'm sure many of you have already experienced setting up passwords in other places. And then once you do all that, you click log in. Then you come to this page, which looks very similar to the landing page. The only difference is the sign in and create a link has disappeared. And there's also your training. There's a box for your training and featured courses that you haven't taken yet, things like that. And so again, there's a couple ways you can search, and just like many platforms, there's more than one way to do anything. A real simple way is, if you know what you're interested in, if you see this red circle up in the top right-hand corner, if you type in a topic, for example, share insurance, or CDRLF, or grants, or loans, then you can start searching there. I like using the View Courses link again. That's one way to, if you just want to, see everything that's in the course on the LMS is a quick and easy way to do that. And I'm going to get to that in a few minutes, actually next. So if you click View Courses, this is what you'll see, this page. And if you just, where this red arrow is, if you just put your cursor there and hit enter, it will bring up everything that's on the LMS. Right now it says there's 107 total courses. That's what it was when I took this screenshot, but actually it's now at 116. You can also do a keyword search, for example, share insurance, loans, CDR-LF, etc. Another way to get to it, which is really cool that I like because it shows you a different search box when you do it, is if you go up, if you see to the top left-hand corner, you see learning and there's a red circle around it, click on that and then learner homepage, and it brings a different search page up, which I'm going to show you. It brings up this kind of search page. So if you do the same thing, you can either search by keyword or just put your cursor in the box and just hit enter and see everything that's there. So when I took this screenshot, which was a day or two ago, we were at 115. So we're up one course since then. But what I like about this search is if you look at the filters, you can actually filter it by duration. So let's say you have a lot of time, you have a few minutes to do training on a particular day, and you just want to see what's 30 minutes or less. That's kind of helpful, I think. Or if you like me and just love learning, you might pick the 2 hours plus, but it's your choice. And then also type. We have curriculums, external content. External content deals with curriculum. I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. External content is things that are part of the LMS that did not come from NCUA. There's external content that we've included. And then you have materials, online classes. Playlists are your playlists, the ones that you create for yourself, things that you want to come back and watch later, or like a favorites, something you like that you think you might need to take again. That's what that relates to. And then finally, we have videos. So I'm going to talk about most of these different types next. So we have online courses. So we have basically 4 types of content that I want to share with you that is mostly what we deal with on our learning management system. So first of all, there's online courses. An online course is defined as on demand at your pace, click and learn training. So it's not a video, it's not a playback, but it's actually something that's interactive where you interact with the learning. Maybe you take a quiz or it asks you to select things or line things up. It's that kind of thing. That's an online course. The other type of courses that we have are video courses, and those are short videos. I think you've probably been all over YouTube and many other places where there's these really short training videos. We do the same thing. Most of them, all of them, I think are under 10 minutes. Most of them are under 5 minutes. And, it's a video that explains a topic. We have right now a full series on board of directors training. The next thing I want to talk about are materials. So materials are basically anything else we put on the LMS other than an online course or video. So for example, the recording of this webinar will be loaded up as a material. All of our webinars, even though they're recordings, are not loaded up as videos, but as materials. And also included in materials could be, for example, a white paper that we've PDF and loaded up for access, or maybe it's direction or guidance on how to do something or understand something better. It may not be a video or course or even a video of a webinar. It could just be a resource. So those are all included under materials. And this is going to make why I'm sharing all this you'll understand in a few minutes when I'm done explaining this. And then finally, we have curriculums. So curriculums are basically a combination of any of the first 3 things put into one package. So for example, let's say we decide to create a curriculum on grants. So a recording of this webinar, which will be loaded up as a material, could be a part of that, as well as maybe a PDF of the grant guidelines. That would be loaded up. And maybe there is a short video of Josh explaining how to get a rewarding grant, how to write a great grant application that he talked about. And we also have a course on the CDRLF already, so maybe we include that. And it's all put into one curriculum. And that way, when you go to search, you can find all those, instead of taking all those separate pieces or looking for them, they're all put together for you in one curriculum. And it could be any combination of any of these three things. For example, we have a wonderful curriculum on the board of directors video series that I talked about. There are 9 series right now for board of directors on many topics such as succession planning and understanding financial statements and having successful board meetings and all kinds of things like that. And each series has at least 3 videos. And each of those videos are put into one curriculum. So you don't have to search for each individual video. You can find the curriculum on succession planning, and all of the videos are there. By the way, each of our courses, videos, materials, curriculums, once you complete them, you get a certificate of completion that you can download, you can print out, you can save it for your records. So that's basically it for me and our webinar. It is now time for Q&A. We do have time to take questions from you. So I'm going to turn it over to Gerardo Meza, who is going to help us with the Q&A.
Thank you, Ron. Let's go over here with one of our first question. This goes to Josh. Can a credit union apply for one of the regular grants, let's say technical assistance or the underserved outreach, and one of the pilot initiative grants as well?
Yeah, you could apply. Long answer to a short question is we're only allowing credit unions to receive one award. So typically what will happen if you apply for a training grant and a digital service grant, they are both considered technical assistance grants. So we're only going to review the first one that we receive. Any subsequent applications will be rejected out of hand. For the pilot, it's a separate application altogether. So we will allow you to submit a technical assistance grant and a pilot grant, but you will only be given one award. You cannot receive both awards. So we will work with you either in deciding which award will make your the biggest impact on your credit union, or depending on demand as well, will determine whether or not you receive an award.
Thank you, Josh. Here's another one for you. Are credit unions with 110 million disqualified to participate?
Not entirely. We do have some initiatives that are limited just to credit unions with 100 million assets, specifically the training grant. But for other initiatives, such as the digital service grant, that we're allowing applicants up to $250 million in assets. For the underserved outreach grant, there is no asset limit. For the pilot grant, the small credit union partnership, all credit unions must have less than $100 million in assets. So the grant application guidelines that we will be putting out shortly on our website will have all of the initiative-specific eligibility requirements.
Thank you. Here's another one for you. So if a credit union is under 100 million, but it's not an MDI or low income designation, then are the grants not available to them? They just want to confirm. And I think you just answered it though. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, correct. Only MDIs or low income designated credit unions can apply.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Do you know how many awards you anticipate making for the pilot program?
We don't know right now. A lot of that is going to depend on the demand for it, but we anticipate only making one award for each project. So that would be one under each of the four focus areas in the impact through innovation, and then one award for the small credit union partnership. That may change depending on demand, or any other various factors that go into the grant review.
Thank you, Josh. So we have actually a lot of questions coming in. Okay, so here's another one. How do you apply for a low interest loan?
It's very similar to our grant application. All of our grant and loan applications go through our current grant management system. So if you go to the ncua.gov, there's a blue ribbon that goes across the screen on a top menu, and under support services, you'll be able to find, let me kind of do it on my screen so I can tell you guys the information. So you would move over support services, click on credit union resources and expansion, and you'll find the link to the grants and loans page there. And there you'll find the link to our grants management system, instructions on how to apply.
Thank you, Josh. Here's another one. Are you looking for new programs for the pilot program, or can an existing program at a credit union qualify for the new pilot program? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Usually we do look for new programs. However, we are also considering the growth of a program to be a new program. So if you've got something that you're doing now and it's successful, and you can use $300,000 or $100,000 this year to expand it, you could definitely apply. One thing I do want to point out with the pilots specifically, because they are multi-year grants, we're looking for, in your application especially, we just want to see that these are three essentially independent phases that build upon each other in growth. So you essentially will have your first year will be project X. You want to have that project completed by the end of the year, because there is a risk that we don't have funding available for next year. Year two, if funding is available, you could then use the additional funding to kind of expand on that project, or add on to it. So that's really what we're looking for. And in those, I don't know if it was clear, but in those subsequent years, you don't need to reapply. So if funding is available and you've successfully completed your first phase of your project, you will be able to receive that second and potentially third tranche of funding.
Thank you, Josh. You may want to get a drink of water, because I think most of these questions are for you. But let's see here. Can a credit union use any of the grants to hire volunteers as staff?
That depends on the project.
Yeah.
So if it's a training project, you can use those funds to pay for those employees to get training. But there's really no use for salary on a training project. However, if you have an underserved outreach grant and part of your project is hiring a certified financial education counselor to provide counseling and education to members, then that person's salary can definitely be included in that project. Two things I do want to point out is make sure that you put that in your proposed budget in the application, and also note that only the part of their salary that is directed to that project will be allowed. So if you're paying for a CEO's salary, unless you can allocate specific hours in the day to that CEO, you're not going to be able to use their funds for their salary. But if you have a loan officer who spends 50% of their time working with members to build this loan program, then 50% of their salary may qualify to use. There's a lot of depends in the grants program, and for those reasons, I always say ask first. And you can definitely send an email to us at cureapps, and I believe that email will be shown later. cureapps@ncua.gov.
So here's a question that you just answered, but I just want to read it to make sure that the person that asks it knows that. But if a credit union receives a grant, who can they reach out to make sure that they're using it correctly? And you just said is reach out through that email, and we'll have that at the end of the presentation. Okay, so that's that. Let me see what else we have here. When will the grant guidelines be posted? Do you know, Josh?
Soon. We hope to have them posted on our website as soon as possible. There will be a link in the application to our website where they will be available on no later than Monday, hopefully sooner.
Thank you. Okay, I have a question that might be for Ron. I hear that
Okay.
setup and access in LMS is at no cost, but don't want to assume that taking the course is the same as access. Are the courses free? I believe the answer is yes, but Ron.
Yes, that is correct. Everything on the LMS is absolutely at no cost once you set up an account, and there's no limit on how many courses you can take either. So if you want to take all 116, I recommend you do that, and I applaud you if you decide to do that. So I hope that answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Let's keep it going on you. Somebody wants to know how they go about downloading the webinar. I know you discussed it at the beginning, but we had some of the participants having technical
Okay.
issues. Yeah.
Yes. So if you want it right away, the link that you used to register for this webinar, go find that link and click on it again, and go ahead and put your contact information in, and then you're going to get a notice that says you're already registered. Just click OK. And once you do that, you'll be on the landing page, and right in the middle at the bottom, you'll see a link to download a PDF of the slides. Also, once we load this up to the learning management system, the slides will be loaded up with the recording there as well.
Thank you, Ron.
Mhm.
Let's go back to
Thank you for the
Josh.
question.
Of course. Okay, Josh, we have a question here. Could the Impact Through Innovation grant be used to help start up an MDI credit union? And it keeps on going, if a current lid supporting credit union makes the application to support the new startup MDI credit union? I don't know if I understand that question.
I want to say no.
No.
So that would not fit on. It doesn't seem like it would necessarily fit under any of the 4 focus areas. So the focus areas again are financial deserts, working with fintechs, reaching credit invisibles, and addressing affordable housing. The project you described does not really seem to fit in that. Also, again, you still do need to be a credit union, designated as a low income or not, or as an MDI, but you do need to be designated as a credit union. So the award is for the credit union that applies, not to be used as kind of like a pass through. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, that's a great idea. Here's a question for Ron, and I don't even know what this means, but are SCORM files available from the LMS to input them into our own internal LMS system?
Yeah, yes, I understand that question.
Oh.
So SCORM is the standard for online training courses, and the answer is no. Our our courses are only made available through the learning management system. And I understand the question you have, you're one of the fortunate credit unions that you have your own LMS, and that would be great resource for you if you were able to do that. But unfortunately, we only make our training courses available on our learning management system. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Ron. Okay, Josh. And I believe we've already answered this, but let me just ask it again. So can credit union only apply for technical assistant grant if you are a LID or MDI?
Yes, yes, for the technical assistance and the pilot grant, you have to be either a LID or an MDI. For the loans and urgent needs, you need to be low income designated.
Thank you, Josh. Let me see what else we have here. I don't know that I know the answer to this, but I'll just go ahead and ask and see if anybody on the panel knows. Would high school students be considered underserved outreach?
For the purposes of our program, you need to explain how they're underserved. You would need to say, for example, high school students in our area, have none of them have bank accounts. This leads to them having kind of a delayed capacity. Growing up, they have less access to capital, less access to credit, et cetera, et cetera. So you'd want to explain what you meant by high school students being an underserved community.
Thank you, Josh. Again, I wonder if any of the participants have any questions on the small credit union support program. Just putting it out there because John is just sitting there.
John did such a good job presenting, I guess.
Yeah.
He answered all the questions.
Oh, okay. So here's another one. Josh mentioned a webinar from the fall that gave a lot of information about help tell the story. Where can we find it? I believe that's in the LMS, correct, Ron? And Josh?
You talking about the webinar he mentioned on how to get a winning grant or something? Is that what it's referring to?
Yeah, I believe so, yes.
Yeah, it is in the LMS. That is correct. And the title, I don't know the exact title off the top of my head, but if you remember, let me go back.
Ron,
Let me
if I
go back a
may,
couple.
the title is in the slides. So on that
Oh,
slide,
it is?
mentioned it, the title is on the slide. So once you have the slides available, you just search that. Also, I think if you just search CDRLF or grants and loans in LMS, that might pop up as well.
Yeah. And one of the things, while we're on that topic, one of the things I did want to mention is if you wind up on this page here, if you look at these icons right here, so this is this right here is the icon, the books is the icon for curriculum. If when you're on this page and you click the one right here that looks like a file, a manila folder with some things in it, it's like the second one. I don't know if you can see my cursor mouse, but it is it's like 7 icons. It's number 5 if you go from left to right. That is the icon for materials. If you click on that, only the materials will come up, which is where that webinar would be. And then you can find all the webinars as well as Josh's. And then if you do a search in there for CDRLF, it will only bring up the material related to that topic, not everything else. So it's a kind of a shortcut.
Thank you, Ron.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're coming to the end here. We have a couple more for Josh. Oh, there's another one. Will applications be rejected based on camels?
The requirements and minimum camel ratings for each initiative are going to be listed in the grant guidelines. You can take a look at the previous year's guidelines to see what those are. They haven't changed much.
Thank you. Okay, let me see. I think that
We
might.
do expect the guidelines to be out there though by hopefully no later than May 1st.
Thank you, Christian.
I would also like to say, do not apply until the guidelines are out. I don't want to have to, reject applications because of, they were poor quality when, again, like I said, there's no bonus for applying on May 1st. So on May 1st, if the guidelines are not out, look at the application. We ask the questions, you'll see what we're asking for. You can start your application, you can save your application, but once you submit it, it's out of our hands. We're not going to have you update it or resubmit it or anything. So wait until those application guidelines are out, read them carefully, ask us questions. You have until June 23rd, and that is because we anticipate getting so many questions that we're going to need a week to answer them all at the end of the grant round. So please take your time, be thorough, ask first. There may be something that we can't help you with, but odds are we're going to be able to provide some guidance. We really appreciate your patience. But again, there are, 8.5 weeks in which the grant applications will be open. So there really is no rush. If you apply on May 1st, June 1st, or June 30th, we're going to review you all the same.
Thank you, Josh. I think we have the last one for you, and then we'll have one for John. Can you include multiple projects under the same application, such as like if they meet the certain criteria, such as increasing the ability to serve minority populations for the MDI capacity building?
You can apply for multiple activities under one initiative. So for example, with the MDI capacity, you can apply for, I think there's like 6 or 7 activities that we provide. You can apply for as many of those activities as you would like. However, you cannot apply for a digital service grant and an underserved outreach grant.
Thank you. John, we have a question for you here. It looks like, how can your examiner's office assist you with marketing?
That would depend on what kind of assistance you're looking for. Examiners can help you work with budgeting. Obviously, examiners have a lot of experience in the credit union industry. I'm sure they can give you some assistance and guidance on efficiency in marketing, especially if you're a small credit union, and give you an idea of how credit unions are using their marketing dollars efficiently. I would say if you are having questions about marketing or your marketing budget, reach out to your examiner, have the conversation. It's certainly worth it. The hours are there for your assistance. So, highly recommend you at least start the conversation. It's worth having the conversation.
And this is separate from the regular exam. This is part of the small credit union support program, correct?
It is. Yep. These are separate hours budgeted. Often it's going to be a separate contact. So yeah, it's not going to impact your exam or the completion of your exam. These are completely separate budgeted hours that your examiner is going to dedicate to helping you in areas like marketing and earnings and things like that.
Thank you. Actually, all right. I apologize, Josh, but there is one more. Okay, I promise. Can a digital grant be used to implement a text system to alert members of fraud, scams, loan due notifications, and other important information?
I want to say yes, because that's a very vague question. No, I mean, it's not a vague question, but it's hard to determine based, just to say what each of those activities are. What I will say is that any measure to strengthen your credit union security, cybersecurity, mind you, not physical security. If you need locks on the doors and cameras in the hallways, that is not allowable. But something to protect your members against fraud would be allowable. Loan due notifications, it sounds like that would be allowable under, let's say, like the mobile. It's not really a mobile or online banking activity, but I think it fits in that line where you're providing a service to credit union members that is beyond. So if they get a text that says, hey, your loan is due, if they can go in to the website and sign up for notifications, if that's a new service, it may qualify. So again, without seeing the entire project in context, I can't say yes, but it might. I don't know if that's a good answer.
Thank you, Josh. Well, that's all for the questions. Love the questions, love the answers. Thank you, John, Josh, and Ron. I'll pass it back over to Ron.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for joining us. This concludes our webinar. Thank you again for joining us. This is how you can contact John about the support program. I also want to thank you, Gerardo, for the great job you did with the Q&A. And thank my colleagues, Josh and John, one more time. And this is how you can contact CURE about grants and loans, about learning, or about the LMS. And I also want to give a big thank you to our behind the scenes webinar support team. And again, in a few weeks, we're going to post this entire webinar with a PDF of the slides on our learning management system. So thank you all again for joining us. Please enjoy the rest of your day.